Hello dear grade 6 children. Today we are going to learn the 6th lesson of the textbook, that is sound and hearing. So in our day-to-day life we hear a lot of sounds, different types of sounds. So under this lesson we are going to learn about so many interesting things about sound. So let's see what are the topics that we are going to learn under this lesson, children. The first topic is producing sounds. Now we hear a lot of sounds in our day-to-day lives, but we don't know how the sound is produced. So under this chapter, we are going to learn how the sound is produced, okay? And then hearing of sounds. Not only the way the sound is produced, how do we hear sound, children? That's also we are going to learn under the second chapter. Diversity of sounds. Now under this part we are going to learn there are different types of sounds, how they produced, why are they different from each other, all these things we are going to learn under this part. Then music and noise. So basically sound can be divided into two main parts based on the loudness, based on the rhythm. So that is music and noise. So we are going to learn about the difference between music and noise under this part, okay? And finally, we are going to learn creating equipment to produce sound. So in order to produce different types of sound, I am going to teach you how to produce, how to make different equipment, different types of musical instruments. So all these musical instruments I am going to teach you, you all can make at home. So let's get started. The first topic, sounds that can be heard in our day-to-day life. So as I told you before, in our day-to-day lives, we hear a lot of sounds, different types of sounds. Some of them are very loud and some of them are not. These are some examples, children. What are they? Sounds of animals. So if you have pets at home, like cats and dogs, you know how they make different sounds, right? Dogs bark and it's very loud, okay? And at the same time, when you go into the zoo, you know how different types of animals make different sounds, okay? And then human voice. At home, you hear your family members talking, and when you go to school also, you hear your teachers teaching and your friends talking likewise. Not only that, when you go to school, you hear the bell ringing. Those are also types of different sounds, okay? And then noise of horns. So when you go in vehicles, you know the noise of horns and also the sound of the engine as well. Okay, children? So apart from these things, shall we write other examples too, children? You also can write these examples. Let's write some other examples. So sound of animals, human voice. When you go to your garden, you will hear the leaves rustling of the trees, leaves rustling. Leaves rustling. Right? If the environment is very quiet, you will hear the wind blowing, the sound of the wind as well. Okay? Let's write sound of the wind. Sound of the wind. And sound of water flowing. Okay? And at school, you will hear the sound of the bell, sound of the school bell, likewise. So these are only some other examples. Apart from all these examples, there are so many other examples too. Okay, children? Now, we have an activity to do here. Now, this activity is very easy. You all can do this activity now. So, the activity is observing the different sounds we hear. So, we already discussed some of these sounds, some of the examples we already discussed. Let's go through this. How to do this one? Go out of the class and pay your attention to the sounds that you hear. Okay, so you have to go out of the class, or you have to go to your home garden otherwise, and you have to pay attention. So now remember, let's say that when you're at school, you will go out of the classroom as a group of children with your classmates. Make sure you don't talk to each other, otherwise you will not hear the other sounds. You will hear only your friends talking. Okay, children. So if you want to hear the other sounds also, you have to pay attention without talking too much. Okay, children? Then identify the sounds. Identify the sounds, different sounds. As I told you, you have to pay special attention without talking to each other. If you can, just go out and close your eyes without paying attention to anything else. Just close your eyes. Okay, children? So when you close your eyes, you will hear these different types of sounds better. And list out the sounds you heard. And then finally come to the class and compare the sounds you heard with those of your friends. So you will realize, now you can discuss with your friends, what are the sounds you heard, right? You can write down the sounds that you can hear, right? And you can ask whether your friends also heard the same type of sounds, and you can check whether what are the different types of sounds other than your list. So what are the possible types of sounds that you could hear when you go out of the classroom, children? Let's write. So you will hear, when you go to the school garden, you will hear the sounds of birds and maybe other animals too. Let's write. Sound of birds. And if the environment is very quiet, you will be able to hear the plant leaves rustling too. Okay? Rustling of leaves. Rustling of leaves. What else, children? You will be able to hear the sound of footsteps of your friends too. Okay? The sound of footsteps. Footsteps. What else, children? Let's say that if you go near your music room, you will hear the children inside the music room playing different instruments, and also some of them singing too. Okay, let's write, because those are possible sounds around the school. We'll write them too. Sound of musical instruments. Sound of musical instruments. Sound of children singing. Children singing. Sound of vehicles. Sound of children talking. So these are only some of the sounds that you can hear when you go out of your classrooms. But if you pay special attention, you will hear many more other sounds too. Okay. So as I told you, if you want to add more number of points to your list, as I told you before, remember, without talking to each other, you all have to listen to the sounds in the environment carefully. Okay, children? Right. We'll move on to the next. Right, children. Now we have another activity to do. So we are going to do this activity to find out more about the sound, the nature of sounds we hear, okay? So the activity is finding out more about the nature of the sounds we hear. So we are going to listen to the sounds better, okay? So what are the things we need, children? To do this activity, we need bristle boards and a pair of scissors and glue, okay? Let's write. A bristle board or cardboard. A pair of scissors. A pair of scissors. And glue. Okay? A bristle board, a pair of scissors and glue. Okay, children? Now, how to do this activity? Method. So, make 2 pieces of equipment using the bristle boards as given in the figure. Now, look at this. Using the bristle board, you have to make 2 of these cone-shaped structures, okay? Then what do you have to do? Keep them in your ear and listen to what you hear. But remember, before you go to this step, first of all, you have to listen to the sounds that you can hear in the environment. Now, after listening to those sounds, you have to then keep these 2 cone-shaped structures in your ears and you have to listen to the sounds again. So, how do you do this, children? So, this narrow side you have to keep next to your ear. So, if this is your ear, narrow side you have to keep next to your ear and you have to listen. Okay, children? Keep them in your ear and listen to what you hear. From both the ears, you have to keep them like this. Okay? Compare the intensity of sounds that you heard during the activity with the sounds that you heard in the first activity and report the difference. Now, even before I asked you all to do that activity that you can go out of your house or the classroom and you can listen to different sounds and you have to listen to different types of sounds in the environment. So if you use, second instance, if you use these 2 cones to listen to those sounds, you will hear those different types of sounds much better using these 2 equipment. Right, children? We will do this activity now. Okay, children. Now we are going to do this activity to check whether we can hear the sounds in the environment clearly using these type of equipment. Look at these 2 cones. Now I explained you how to make these type of cones, right? Using bristle board or cardboard, you can make equal size of cones like this. And then what do you have to do? You have to keep these cones to your ear like this. And you have to listen to the different sounds in the environment, okay? Now at the moment, I can hear the sound of the fan in this room. And if I keep these 2 cones like this, yes, I can hear it very clearly than before, okay? It means when I listen to these different sounds through these cones, what happens, children? The intensity of the sound increases. Okay, it gets more intense and therefore you can hear them clearly. What is the reason, children? If you look at this cone, look at the shape. If you keep it next to your ear like this, because of this wide area present, it can collect more and more sound waves. Okay, so you are going to learn later that sound travels as sound waves. Okay, so here, if you keep it like this, you can hear it more clearly because this part is wider than this part. Therefore, this cone-like shape can collect more and more sound waves. Okay, children? So, you all can do this activity very easily. Okay, this is very easy to do even at home. You all can ask someone to, like when you keep it like this, ask someone to talk to you or ask someone to whisper from the other side. You will hear it very clearly. So did you do the activity, children? Now even I showed you how to do the activity, you couldn't hear what I heard. Okay? But did you do the activity? I hope you all did this activity. That is because this activity is very easy to do even at home. Okay? So what did you hear, children? Now I told you I heard the sound of the fan much better than before. Okay, children, when I was using the 2 cones, I heard the sound of the fan much better. Okay, so did you hear the sounds in the environment better when you use the cones, children? I hope you must have observed the difference. Okay, so what is the reason for this one, children? That is because now you all know that when you hear using your earlobes, you can direct certain amount of sound to your inside the ear, right? But when you use these two cones, what happens? Now you all can see this side is wide. It can collect more and more sound waves. In the upper grades, now you all are going to learn sound goes from one place to another place as a sound wave. Okay? So this cone-shaped structure can collect more and more sound waves and direct it to your ear. Right? So your ear gets more sound waves. That is why you can hear much better than before. Okay, children? So let's write the observations. The intensity. The intensity of sounds. Intensity of sounds heard is higher. The intensity of sounds heard is higher, which means we can hear different sounds better. When we use the cone-shaped equipment. Okay, children? The intensity of sounds heard is higher. Intensity increases, okay? It means more intense, more clear, right? We can hear different sounds better when we use the cone-shaped equipment. So I explained you all the reason. That is because of the shape of this cone, this side is wider than this side. Therefore, it can collect more sound waves coming from the environment and direct it to your ears. Okay, children? So I hope this activity is clear now. There's another activity we have to do now. Let's do that. Now we are going to learn about producing sounds. Now I told you under this topic, under this lesson, we are going to learn about how sound is produced. How can we hear and how sound is produced too. Okay? So under this activity, identifying how sound is produced. Now in the previous activity, we observed different types of sounds in the environment better using those two cone-shaped structures. Okay? Now here we are going to identify how sound is produced. So what do we need to do this activity, children? We need a bicycle bell, or even you can use an electric bell. So in this activity, I am going to use an electric bell, but you can even use a bicycle bell, okay? We will write a bicycle bell, or an electric bell. An electric bell. So in the experiment, I am going to use an electric bell, okay? So what is the method? See, now this is the electric bell. We will label. Electric bell. So how to do this activity, children? We'll go through the steps. Connect the electric bell to the battery using conducting wires. Okay, so we have to connect this electric bell to the circuit so that it gets electricity and it can then start working. So connect the electric bell to the battery using conducting wires. And then while it is ringing, keep a finger on it. You have to slightly touch this metal part of the bell while it's ringing and check what you can feel. Okay? So, next thing, now keep several small pieces of paper on the bell. You have to take small pieces of paper or small pieces of rigifoam and you have to place them on the bell while it is ringing. Then you have to observe what happens. Okay, children? Let's do this activity now. Right, children. Now we are going to do this activity to see how sound is produced. Okay. So I explained you what we need to do this activity. Now here I have an electric bell. We can even use a bicycle bell for this one. Okay. And first of all, I am going to connect this electric bell to this battery and it will start to ring. Then I am going to keep my finger on this bell and I am going to check what happens. Okay. Right. Even though you can't see now, I can feel when I keep the finger like this, children, I can feel this bell is vibrating. I can feel it very clearly. Okay. But do you know, even though you can't see that my fingers vibrating here, there's a way that I can show you that. How? Using these tiny pieces of paper. I'm going to place these tiny pieces of paper on the bell. You all can see what happens when I connect this bell to the battery. Okay. Observe carefully. What happened, children? These tiny pieces of paper move here and there. Okay, that is because of the vibration of the bell. These tiny pieces of paper also move up and down and here and there. This type of movement is known as a vibration. Okay, so later you are going to learn that sound is produced by vibration. So here what happens when we connect this bell to the electrical supply, it vibrates and then the sound is produced. Okay, children? So you observed what happened. The first instance you could not observe. Now I told you here, you have to first connect it to the circuit and then while it is ringing, you have to keep the finger on the bell. So I told you now you can't observe that one. When I kept my finger on the bell, when I placed my finger on the bell, on the surface of the bell, I could feel it is vibrating. Okay, children, but you could not observe it. That is something I could feel. Okay. But the second one you could see very easily. You saw what happened here. When I kept some small pieces of paper, what happened, children? While the bell is ringing, what happened? They moved here and there. Okay, children. Actually, they moved because of the vibration created in the bell. Because the bell is vibrating, that vibration spreads to the tiny pieces of paper too. That is why those pieces of paper also move here and there. Okay, children. We will write the observations. Observation, the first one. When the bell is ringing, we can feel a vibration. And then the small pieces of paper, move here and there. Here and there. When the bell is ringing, we can feel a vibration. The small pieces of paper move here and there. Now here this happens when we touch the bell. When the bell is ringing, when we touch the bell, we can feel a vibration. And the small pieces of paper move. When we place small pieces of paper on the ringing bell, we can clearly see that those tiny pieces of paper move here and there. So what is the conclusion? So after doing this activity, it's clear here when the sound is produced by the bell, a vibration also occurs. When the sound produced by the bell, a vibration also occurs, okay? We will write that. When sound is produced, a vibration occurs. So our observation again, when the bell is ringing, we can feel a vibration. Then the small pieces of paper kept on the bell move here and there. And the conclusion after doing this simple activity, when sound is produced, a vibration occurs. Only when we provide electricity to the bell, it starts ringing, and only when the bell is ringing, we can feel the vibration. When we stop providing electricity, then the ringing of the bell also stops and moving of the paper also stops. Okay, children. So this happens only when sound is produced. Therefore, it's clear when sound is produced, a vibration occurs. Okay, children. We have to do the same type of activity to understand this theory better. We'll go to do this now. Now, this activity is also to identify how sound is produced. Even the earlier activity also we did to identify how sound is produced. Right? By doing this activity, we can understand this much better, okay? So what do we need to do this small activity? We need a small drum and tiny pieces of paper, okay? We have to make small pieces of paper balls using tiny pieces of paper, okay? We will write a small drum, small pieces of paper. Okay, a small drum and small pieces of paper. How to do this now? It's just as before. Keep the small pieces of paper on the drum and play it. Now look at this one. We have the diagram. We have to label it now. This is the drum and pieces of paper. Pieces of paper. Small drum. How to do this? Keep the small pieces of paper on the drum and play it. Right? You have to simply beat the drum using your fingers and check what happens, okay? Observe what happens to the pieces of paper when the drum is beaten. You have to beat the drum faster and then slowly and observe what happens to the pieces of paper. Okay, children? Let's do this activity first. Okay, children. By doing this activity also, we can understand very clearly how sound is produced. Now you all can see I have a drum here and I have tiny pieces of paper. I am going to place these pieces of paper on the skin. This skin is again known as the membrane too. So I am going to place this on the skin. And you all can see now these tiny pieces of paper, they are not moving at the moment. Now I am going to beat the drum. Look what happens then, okay? What's happening, children? These tiny pieces of paper moves up and down and here and there. Right? I will beat faster now. Right. You can see their movement is also faster than before. Okay. So why does this happen, children? The drum skin vibrates when I beat the drum. So then because of the vibration, that vibration spreads to these tiny pieces of paper too. Right? Here the vibration means this drum skin starts to move up and down according to the way I beat it. So the drum skin start to move up and down. That is known as the vibration of the drum skin. There, because of the vibration, these tiny pieces of paper also vibrate. They also move up and down and here and there. Okay, children? So, only when I beat the drum, this drum skin start to vibrate. Because of the vibration, sound is also produced. So, after doing this activity, we have to understand that sound is produced by vibrating. When it comes to this drum, it produces sound when I vibrate the drum skin or the membrane. Right, children? So, you observed what happened during the activity. So, what did we do again? We kept small pieces of paper on the drum and we started to beat the drum. So, what happened? When the drum is beaten, the tiny pieces of paper also move here and there. Okay, children? We'll write the observations. Observation. When the drum is beaten, the small pieces of paper move here and there. Okay? When the drum is beaten, the small pieces of paper move here and there. Understand, children? So, what is the conclusion? Why does this happen, children? Actually, what happens is when you beat the drum, this drum skin, the skin of the drum moves up and down or back and forth continuously. Right, at high speed, it moves up and down continuously. Okay, children? So, because of this movement, pieces of paper also move. Okay, children? Because of the movement of the drum skin continuously, pieces of paper also move. So, you are going to learn later this type of continuous movement of certain material is known as a vibration. So, actually what happens is this drum skin vibrates when we beat the drum. Okay, so when we beat the drum skin starts to vibrate continuously. So, because of the vibration only, these pieces of paper also move here and there. Understand? Let's write the conclusion. When we beat the drum, the membrane or the skin of the drum, moves back and forth continuously. Due to the movement of the drum skin, the small pieces of paper also move. Okay, children? When we beat the drum, the membrane of the drum or the drum skin moves back and forth continuously. Due to the movement of the drum skin, the small pieces of paper also move. Understand, children? So here, when we beat the drum, small pieces of paper on its skin move here and there. That is because the hide of the drum or the drum membrane moves back and forth continuously and rapidly. right, at high speed and rapidly when it is beaten. Okay, this type of movement is called vibration. Remember I explained you. So if something moves up and down or back and forth continuously and rapidly, this type of movement is known as a vibration. Okay, children, this type of movement is called vibration. So what is the conclusion that you can come up with after doing all these activities, children? So you all know that only when we beat the drum, it starts vibrating. The drum skin starts vibrating. Even the first experiment, when we use the electric bell also, only when the bell is ringing, we feel the vibration. And also the tiny pieces of paper also move. That is because sound is produced by vibrating something. Right? When sound is produced, when something is vibrated. So because of the vibration of the drum skin, sound is produced. The sound of the drum is produced. And because of the vibration of the metal piece of the bell, the sound of the bell is produced. So finally we can decide how sound is produced, children. Therefore, it is clear that sound is produced by vibrating something, vibrating materials, vibrating tiny particles. So this is very important. Therefore, it is clear that sound is produced by vibrating something. Okay, children. So always now when you are going to the upper grades, you are going to learn sound can produce by vibrating solid materials, liquid materials and gaseous materials too. So all these materials are made up of tiny particles. So actually what happens is these particles vibrate and sound is produced through solids, liquids and gases. So for this grade, we are going to learn only sound is produced by vibrating something. Understand, children? We'll move on to the next. Now our next topic is sources of sound. What is the meaning of sources, children? Now do you remember in the 5th lesson, we learn about light. There we learn about sources of light. So what is the meaning of sources of light? The objects that produce light are known as sources of light. So what do you think of the sources of sound? Yes, you can guess it now. The things that produce sound are known as sources of sound. Things or objects that can produce sound are known as sources of sound. Okay, children? The things that produce sound are called sources of sound. So what are the sources of sound, children? There are many sources of sound. Now when we talk, that is also some sounds coming out. Therefore, we are also humans and all the other animals can make different sounds. Therefore, we are considered as sources of sound. What about? You all know that in the nature, there are a number of sources of sounds. Now, sources of sounds also we can divide into natural and artificial sources of sounds. What are the natural sources of sounds, children? Animals and water. Moving water can make different sounds, right? Then still water, moving water can different sounds. And fall in waterfalls also sound is produced. Okay, children? And wind also can make sounds. Okay, so wind also can be considered as a source of sound. Okay, children? What else, children? What are the artificial sources of sound? So anything man-made that can produce sound are known as artificial sources of sound. What are they? Vehicles are man-made things, machines are man-made things. They all can make sounds. Okay, children? Then what about the school bell? That's also a man-made thing that also can produce sound. So if you look at the environment, if you listen to the different sounds, you will understand that there are a number of sources of sound. We will write some examples, children. The things that produce sound are called sources of sound. Examples: animals, moving water, wind, rustling leaves, rustling leaves. What else, children? Machines. Vehicles. School bell. So these are only some examples for sources of sounds. There are many other examples too, right? We'll move on to the next. We have an activity to do here. Producing different types of sounds. Now we are going to produce different types of sounds, okay? We'll go through this list. Tap the desk with a pen or a pencil. Now if you have a desk next to you, you can do this activity. Now I don't have a desk, therefore I am going to tap on the board. Listen to this. You can hear the sound when I tap on the board. You can hear the sound very well, right? Okay. What is the second one? Clap your hands. You can clap your hands and a different type of sound is produced. See? When I clap slowly, it's different. This time it's different. Okay, children? Put some marbles or some green gram into a yogurt cup and shake it. Put some marbles. If you have beads, you can put green gram or any other type of seeds you can put. Or else you can even put some pebbles and you can shake it and check what type of sound is produced. Or if you have all of them, green gram and cowpea and marbles and beads, and if you can find pebbles also, you can put different yogurt cups and you can shake them and you can observe that different types of sounds are produced. Crush a piece of paper with the hand. Shall I show you this, children? Right. Did you hear that? I hope it was very clear. Next one. Burst a balloon. You must have observed this one. Even sometimes during different functions, you have this balloon burst in competitions and all. You must have had this experience, I am very sure. So it's clear that sound can be produced by simple activities as above. So these are only very limited number of activities, children. There are many other ways to produce sound in our day-to-day lives. Okay, children? We'll move on to the next. We have this assignment to do. Try some more simple ways of producing sound. What are the other ways of producing sound, children? Now we already discussed about tapping the desk with the pen, clapping hands, so shaking a yogurt cup with marbles and crushing a piece of paper and bursting a balloon. What are the other ways that we can do? You can produce sound when you drop something onto the floor. Let's say a metal spoon or something. When you drop it onto the floor, you will hear a ringing sound, right? That sound stays for a certain period of time in the environment. It's a ringing sound. So dropping something onto the floor. What else? When you drag a chair or a desk, let's say that if you want to move a desk at school, sometimes if you don't have help, if there's no one to help it, you might have to drag it from one place to another place. So then also sound is produced, right? What about snapping your fingers? Listen. Snapping your fingers, a different type of sound is produced there. Okay, children? So what else? Bouncing a ball. Jumping up and down. So different types of sounds are produced during each activity. Okay? We'll write some of them. Dragging a chair. Dragging a chair. Dropping something. Onto the floor. What else? Snap in your fingers. Snap in your fingers. What else, children? Bounce in a ball. Bounce in a ball. Okay, children? Drag in a chair. Drop in something onto the floor. Snap in your fingers. Bounce in a ball. So there are many other activities. You can add other examples too, because this is an assignment. You have to write examples as a list. So to your list, you can add more and more examples. I will give you another example. When you turn the pages of a book, a certain sound is produced. Or when you turn a newspaper, also a certain sound is produced. So different types of sounds are produced during these type of simple activities in your day-to-day lives. Okay, children? So I hope this part is very clear now. We'll move on to the next. Our next topic is hearing of sounds. How can we hear sounds, children? Now we know how sound is produced. Sound is produced by vibrating something. Okay? How can we hear sounds, children? So when somewhere sound is produced, it should reach our ear. So we should understand this type of sound is produced. Right, children? So how do we hear different types of sounds? Let's go through this activity. Finding out how do we hear sounds. So how to do this activity? Tell your friend to close his or her ears and beat a drum. Then ask whether he or she could hear the sound clearly. Ask your friend to close his ears like this. Right? Then start to beat a drum and ask whether he can hear it clearly. Ask your friend to open and close his ears while listening to the sound of the drum. So while listening, now then your friend has to open the ears. Okay, children? Now ask your friend to open and close continuously. I think you must have done this when you were small to understand the environment better. Even you must have seen small children. Sometimes they close their ears like this and sometimes they open. Continuously they close and open and check whether what happens to the sounds they hear. As small children, you also must have done these type of things. Right? So we have to do the same thing. While listening to the sound, you have to close your ear. Right? Then you have to check what happens to the sound that you were listening to. Then you have to open your ears again and now check what happens. Ask him or her whether he or she noticed any difference in hearing when the ears are opened and closed. So I am sure even without a friend, let's say that if you don't have anyone around to do this activity with, you can go to a place where sound is produced. Let's say you can go to a place where a certain machine works, a blender or a washing machine. Or you can go outside and you have to listen to certain like continuously playing music or something. You can turn on the radio and you can let the music play and you can do this activity by yourselves, even if you don't have a friend to do this with. Okay? What would you hear, children? I am sure you must have done this before. So when you close your ears, the intensity, the loudness of the sound reduces. You cannot hear the sounds better. But when you open your ears, you can hear the sounds better. Okay, children? Why does this happen, children? That is because we can hear because of our ears. Our ears are sensitive to different sounds. Okay, children? We'll move on to the next. Now you can understand that when the ears are closed, the sound of the drum is not very clear. The drum or any other sound that you were listening to. We can hear the sound of the drum only when the sound enters our ears. Right? So if the sound doesn't enter your ears, you cannot hear. Okay, children? The ear is the organ that senses sound. The ear is the organ that senses sound. Earlobes help to direct the sound into the ear. Now look at this picture. Earlobes. Look at the shape of the earlobe, children. Doesn't it look like the cone shape that we make? Look at the shape. From outside it is wider and here it is narrow. So why does that happen, children? That is because of this special shape, it can collect sound waves more and more. Okay, children. Now here, look at this one. Now the drum is, when we beat the drum, sound waves are produced. Now I told you in the upper grades you are going to learn sound travels as sound waves. Now here, this picture shows how sound waves travel. So when we beat the drum, what happens? The sound waves go through the air and reaches your ear. So inside the ear, children, there is something called eardrum, a tube-like part present starting from your earlobe, and then you have your eardrum. So this is the eardrum. Eardrum. So according to the vibrations produced outside, now I told you sound is produced by vibrating something. So when something, now here in this case, the drum skin vibrates and the sound is produced. So these vibrations of the sound spread through the air and reaches your ear. So according to those vibrations, the eardrum also starts to vibrate. So inside your ears, there are special types of cells. These are known as sensory cells. These sensory cells can understand the vibration and that sensitivity, that sense of sound is sent to your brain. This is done by a special type of nerve called auditory nerve. Now these are extra things, but anyway you all are going to learn it in the upper grades, okay? Auditory nerve. So when the eardrum vibrates, inside the ear, in the inner part of the ear, there are special types of sensitive cells that can understand these vibrations, and the message is sent through a special type of nerve to the brain, and that nerve is known as auditory nerve. So the brain can understand this vibration as a sound. Okay, so this is how we can hear. So now you understand how important your ears are. So you have to protect your ears from loud noise. You should not enter different things to your ear, right, while you are playing, or while sometimes in order to clean our ears, we try to insert different things to our ear. This is very bad, children. You might end up damaging your eardrum. So if your eardrum is damaged, you can't hear well. Okay, children, we'll move on to the next. Now look at this. This is for your extra knowledge, but this is very important for you all, okay? Ear can be damaged by putting external objects to itch the ear. If the ear is damaged, hearing will be weak. As I told you, you can hear very well because of the vibration of your eardrum. Okay? Sound waves are collected by the earlobe and directed to the ear, inside the ear, and inside the ear there's a structure called eardrum, and then eardrum also starts to vibrate. Okay, children, so this vibration spreads to the inner part of the ear, and there are special cells, and these cells can understand the vibrations, and this message is sent to the brain. Okay, so what will happen if the eardrum is damaged? It cannot vibrate properly. If it cannot vibrate properly, it cannot send the vibration to the inner part of the ear. So you cannot understand, your brain cannot understand what type of sound is produced if it doesn't get proper messages. Okay, children? So it's very important to protect your ears from these type of damages. Okay, children? We'll move on to the next. We have an assignment. Observe the different shapes of earlobes of different types of animals. Now we know how the human earlobe looks like, right? So observe the different shapes of earlobes of different types of animals and identify the diversity of earlobes and draw them. What is the meaning of diversity, children? Diversity means differences. Okay? Identify and report the changes that can be seen in the earlobes of various animals when they hear sounds. What happens? Have you ever observed animals listening to sounds? Even if you haven't seen them in your real life, sometimes you must have seen them in videos. Look at this. This is a deer. Have you seen, even in videos, that when a deer senses that another animal is coming to catch it, that what will happen to its ear? It erects its ears and it moves to the other different sides and it checks whether the animal is coming. That is because it can hear very well. Even if the other animal is coming, it can sense very well. So that is why it erects its ears so that using the ear lobes, it can nicely collect all the vibrations, all the sound waves. So look at the rabbit ears here. Look at the shape. Look at the dog's ears. Now dogs, they have different types of ears according to their breed, okay? Look at the cats. Look at the shape. A goat. You have to observe the shapes of the earlobes, no? And this is the deer. Elephant has large earlobes. So these are different types of earlobes. So for all the animals, these earlobes are very important. So for animals like deer, herbivores like deer, it's very important for them to check whether their enemies, their predators are coming to catch them. At the same time, animals like tigers and lions, they need to catch the other animals to feed on them. So in order to identify whether they can hear the sound of the other animals, they also need to have good earlobes to collect the sound waves. Okay, children? Now we are going to watch a video clip on this one. So you observed there what are the differences between earlobes of different animals. Now sometimes some animals like dogs. Now let's say dogs, when they are not listening to anything, most of the time their earlobes are dropped. Like this. This is the dog. Now normally their earlobes are dropped like this. Right? This is the earlobe. It is dropped like this. So, but when it is listening to something, what happens? All of a sudden, their earlobes erect like this. Then their earlobes erect like this so that they can hear them. They can collect the sound waves very well. That is how only by erecting the ears, it can collect the sound waves from the surroundings. Because when their ears are dropped, they cannot collect much sound waves. Okay, children? So you can find many other examples. Read books by reading magazines or educational books. So by internet, you can find out many other examples about the earlobes, importance of earlobes to these type of animals. We will move on to the next now. Our next topic is diversity of sounds. What is the meaning of diversity again, children? Yes. Diversity means differences. So here under this chapter, we are going to learn about the differences of sounds, okay? Diversity of sounds or differences of sounds. What are the different types of sounds? Even the beginning of the lesson, I explained y'all, there are natural sounds and artificial sounds. There are so many sounds produced in the environment. So some of them are naturally produced, right, or produced by natural things, and some of them are produced by man-made things or artificial things. Okay, we will go through this one. Some sounds that we hear in the environment produce naturally. What are the examples? Look at these examples. Sound of wind, sound of birds, and sound of other animals too. Sound of waterfalls, sound of barking of a dog, sound of thunder. Look at these pictures. Sound of sea waves. What are the other sounds, children? Rustling of leaves also. It's also type of sound. Okay, children. And people talking, because humans are also coming under natural things. Okay, people talking all the day. So those type of sounds are coming under natural sounds. What else? The footsteps also coming down. The sound of footsteps also coming under natural sounds. Okay, children. So all these sounds are produced by natural things. Now we are going to watch a video clip on natural sounds. So there you observe there are so many examples for natural sounds. Water flowing and thunder. There are different types of sounds that are made in the natural environment. Now we'll see artificial sounds. There are artificial sounds that are produced by man-made equipment. So what are the examples? Look at this one. Aeroplane. There's a boat, a rocket, and there are machines like these grass cutting machines, loudspeakers, vehicles. There are machines in the factories. There are so many other examples under artificial environment, sounds produced by artificial things, and these are known as artificial sounds. Okay, children, this is artificial sounds. We are going to watch another video clip on these artificial sounds. Okay, there you watched different types of artificial sounds. You saw a grass cutting machine and you saw a bus, right? In a factory, how sound is produced, okay? So now even machines also, different types of machines make different types of sounds. For examples, what are the simple types of machines that we use in our day-to-day lives at home? We use blender, right? Some of us use washing machines, right? And some of us use fans. They use different types of sounds. Okay, children? So even though machines produce sounds, those sounds also from machine to machine, they are different. Okay, children? We will write some examples for these natural and artificial sounds, children. We will include them in a table. So I am going to write only some of them. You can add more examples to the list. Observe your environment and you will be able to find or hear many other examples, many different sounds. All you have to do is to pay attention, children. This side we'll write natural sounds. And artificial sounds. Artificial sounds. What are the examples we discussed? Sound of water flowing or flowing water. Sound of thunder. Sound of the wind. Sound of birds and other animals. Sound of people talking. Sound of people talking. Artificial sounds. Sound of machines. Sound of loudspeakers. Sound of vehicles. And we can even write sound of musical instruments because musical instruments are man-made things now. Sound of musical instruments. So we'll go through the list now. Natural sounds. Sound of water flowing or flowing water. Sound of thunder. Sound of the wind. Sound of birds and other animals. Sound of people talking. Artificial sounds. Sound of machines, of loudspeakers. Sound of vehicles and sound of musical instruments. So I have added only a limited number of things to my list, but you can add more and more things. Observe your environment and add more and more things to your list. Now we have completed the first part of this lesson. So under this part, do you remember what we learned? We learned how sound is produced. There we learned that sound is produced by vibrating something, right? And then we learned that how can we hear sounds. There we learned that because of the ear, we can hear sounds because ear is the organ that is sensitive to sound waves, okay? And finally, we learn diversity of sounds. There we learn there are two types of sounds, natural sounds and artificial sounds. Okay, children. So we have completed the first part. Now we will go to the second part of the lesson.